my good friend Alex Wolf up to the studio. Alex is the creative director of Hope Heals, which is a remarkable organization that I've had the chance of capturing some really cool projects with over the last few years. So I've printed off some of my favorite images, and she's going to come up here. We're going to lay them all out and look at them. And here's that conversation. I think one of the most impressive things for me is just seeing how devoted y'all are to the arts and to aesthetics, and that those things are of such high value to your organization. I'm curious, if you could speak to why is that such a core tenet of who Hope Heals is as an organization?
So if you've worked with disability at all, in a medical sense or an educational sense or a charity sense, beauty is not something that often factors in to the experience of disability, and it's not held in high regard because it's probably not seen as utilitarian or essential or efficient. And so when Catherine got sick, their story turned out so differently than the story of most people who have a traumatic brain injury at such a young age. And when they kind of were a few years out from her stroke, she and Jay surveyed what made our story different? What did we have access to that changed our outcome? And a lot of it was the relationships they had, this really strong relational network that took care of them when she was sick. A lot of it was spiritual resourcing. They had this faith community and a belief system that upheld them. And one thing they identified was just beauty is worth surviving for. Beauty is what makes life worth living in so many ways, and it's not to be ignored. It's not non-essential. And so when we started Hope Heals, we wanted to make sure beauty was baked in everything we did from the very beginning, that it was never an afterthought, because beauty heals. And beauty gives us a reason to wake up in the morning and continue surviving and continue getting better. And so we just wanted to make sure these people who were seeking respite and seeking refreshment and rest got to do it in beautiful places. And so that even has trickled into the way we document what we call our sacred spaces. And that's where you come in.
And I think having the opportunity to show dignity is such a important thing for me. And then even just thinking about the vulnerable nature of the population of the people that come to Hope Heals. I'm looking at people here who lost their life even within this year. And just the weight of knowing the opportunity to capture a beautiful portrait and to capture people in a truly enjoyable and happy.
Yeah, that captures them as they are, not in a way of pity or in a way. It's very tempting to make people with disabilities into superheroes, and that's as dehumanizing as it is to pity them, because they're just people. And so for your style is so conducive to this because you're a documentarian, and so to capture them as they are and not through the lens of either pity or aggrandizing, it's so hard to find that. And like you said, we right now from our camp community, we've had 8 summers of camp, and we've lost 18 of our camp family. And all of them, we keep their portraits and we display them at camp, and many of those portraits you have taken. And for those families, and we have a tradition now when a member of our community passes away, we get a really beautiful portrait framed of that community member, and we send it to their families. And so the homes I've gotten to go into and seen your portraits matted and framed above a fireplace or in a prominent place, nobody gets to do that. And the fact that somebody like you, a world-class photographer, has captured these portraits that those families will treasure forever, I can't even, there's nothing to compare it to.
So I've printed too much here, but
that's a good problem. Pretty prolific when you shoot.
It's kind of fun seeing them all.
You are with us for 10 plus days at a time.
Yep.
Or do you have any other shoots that, like, where you spend the night for 10 days?
No, I mean, there's like there's no harder assignment and there's no more fulfilling assignment. I've told Ashley, I was like, it's literally like shooting a wedding 4 straight days.
That's why every time, I know you want to be there, but every time I ask you, even though we're 4 years into 5 years into this, I'm like, still feel like this.
Well, I know, it literally is, but it also is it's my favorite assignment of the year. So it's the one that I feel most like energized by. But maybe even starting with some of the images that we captured in 2020. This was the Suffer Strong book tour, which was so cool. I remember we met here in the office and you were like, I don't even know how we got on the topic, and you were like, we should do this. Yeah. Which for me, like, I had just been looking at a bunch of Greg Williams's work and the work he did for like what's the award show that he shoots? The Golden Globes. Mm-hmm. And it's all like black and white imagery, and it's all very, so my pitch to you guys was like, can I shoot the whole thing in black and white? And y'all were like, absolutely, which is also really cool. Y'all have a very high tolerance for black and white, which as a client, that's like, that means a lot to me. Things that like really stand out to me are like, for one, seeing Catherine, I mean, Catherine and Jay both spoke, but it was primarily Catherine, like almost these like moments of seeing what it would feel like to be in front of all these audiences. And then also, Catherine is like, if you know Catherine and you've heard her speak, she's like an evangelist. Like she is electric, yeah. She is incredible. But I feel like photos like this to me show like the weight of the responsibility, you know, and the fact that she lives with a lot of ailments and a lot of disabilities that don't make it easy to walk through life day in, day out. But the way she carries that responsibility, and I mean, I don't feel like she's the type of person that's even going to tell you, but you're watching her and you're like, I know this can't be easy for you.
Yeah, and she'll never let on to it. But I don't even know if you remember this, but when we met about this shoot, it was like February of 2020, which is crazy. And Catherine and Jay were releasing their second book. It was called Suffer Strong. And it was a didactic, lessons learned type of book about like, I survived this thing, and this is how I did it. And in my mind, I mean, I've heard Catherine speak countless numbers of times over the years. She shows up and she speaks, and that's the message. But you made this point of like, actually the medium is the message. Yeah. So like, if we can capture everything surrounding the speaking engagement, there's actually so much more to be found and learned from those images than just her getting on stage and the words she's speaking. And that like was such a light bulb moment for me. And so to have you, I mean, like you were in their bathroom with them getting ready, which who has ever done that before with Catherine, to show like, not only is she showing up to these stages, but this is what it takes to get there. She cannot walk on her own. She cannot tie her shoes on her own. She cannot brush her hair on her own. And that's not something we ever really talked about until you had the brilliant idea to capture it. And these have served us so beautifully over the last almost 5 years. And I think, again, it humanizes Catherine. Catherine's not a celebrity, but she is kind of this little niche celebrity in a certain subculture. And these images to her, we talked about dignifying people. These are dignifying to her because it shows the immense effort she puts in to show up to her life, much less to show up to stages.
Well, and I think one of the most like impressive, like watching her speak is impressive. Like it is really hard not to be totally moved. Like she is dynamic when she speaks, and her story is incredible. But to me, like what's almost, I would say, more remarkable than that is watching her like she is, I mean, that's at the Brooklyn Tabernacle right there. And I believe is that a camp family? Yeah. Okay. So this is her posture everywhere she goes, in terms of like, if there's someone in a wheelchair, if there's somebody who wants to speak with her, like, she is so locked. Like, that is what she's there for. So locked. She's there for that more than she's there.
Yeah, she's not there for this part or this part. She's there for that. Like getting on eye level with people that are also in wheelchairs or equivalents of wheelchairs.
Yeah.
She's magic. She's so good.
This is got to do some portraits for your team. This is a portrait that I feel really, really proud of.
My favorite portrait ever taken of her, without a doubt.
There's another one from that she used for her podcast, which was awesome. But
I was that's funny. The new season of the podcast aired today, actually.
Oh, really?
And I was like, should I redo the cover art? And I was like, nah, I can't let go of the portrait, Bryan's portrait that's on there. There's just like this like softness and sophistication that sometimes, again, we don't always get with portraits of people with disabilities, or even with portraits of Catherine. And it's just like, I love the way you captured this. It'll be a long time before I let go of this. We'll let her age 10 more years.
Yeah, I feel like your team will only be that small at this moment. Yes. But I do love this. I love just y'all in the Hope sweatshirts, which are iconic. I do have to say, I don't know if we've said that you are the designer extraordinaire or the art director extraordinaire for all things Hope Heals. Yes. And I was thinking about this summer. Like, I don't know how much pride you take in that sweatshirt, but like, that's crazy how iconic that is.
Well, I think the pinnacle was when we saw it. It was on a Super Bowl commercial.
It's so simple, and it is like.
Yes. I mean, and that is where.
You should be making that sweatshirt for the next 100 years.
I think we will. As a designer, you work so hard on all these complicated designs, and then this is the one that you can't keep in stock. But did you know it was on a Super Bowl commercial?
No.
It was a person was wearing it on a Super Bowl commercial, and it was like 2 years ago, and it was the pink one, and I could not believe it. It was just the most wild thing.
Well, we could go down the line talking about your designs. I mean, I think there's so many of so many of your designs are just so iconic, and the way that you have kind of upheld the brand visually is amazing.
It's like a sandbox.
I don't know, there's so much vibrance and so much life to what y'all are doing at camp. I don't know how do you describe like the camp ecosystem? And then I want to like hear some images that pop for you.
So camp it's a year-round community in disguise as a week-long summer camp. So it is, as far as we can tell, totally unique in the world in that it is a place that no matter your age or your diagnosis or your location, you and your entire family are invited to come for free to this retreat. So that's half of our population. And then the other half are volunteers who pay to come to camp. And those are people with disabilities or without, but who say, I want to pay, I want to serve, however you need me. And for some of our volunteers, that looks like being like a one-on-one companion to a person with a disability. For some, that looks like you're on like our special events team, so you put on fun parties and events, and that again brings the value of beauty back into that. We have a logistics team. So camp is really like 5 camps going on at once, and we do that for weeks and weeks in the summer. Serve every age group. I think this year we had like 80 disabilities represented. Incredible. About 40 states, 3 countries. It is the most special place in the whole world. I've yet to find anything like it. And camp is just like this pressure cooker of that. Like you can learn, you can read books about it, we do video training before you come to camp, but until you're there, surrounded by 500 people who are in some ways living lives they never imagined living, that's when the formation happens. When you get to Camp, you see the world would be less complete without our friends with disabilities. I would understand less about God if I did not have friends with disabilities. Like, God is so vast, so dimensional. He needs so many, I call them diverse embodiments to truly represent who he is. And people with disabilities just teach us about what it means to live with humility and surrender and submission and joy, and like all totally apart from accomplishment or achievement. And camp is your immersion into that way of thinking and way of being. And I wish we could live there all year round. Yes, is how I feel. I've got a month of the year, and I'm working on the other 11.
Well, you summed it up well, but what pops to you in terms of what's been captured as to like?
Okay, this is my can I show you my favorite picture you've ever taken? Yeah. Do you have any idea which one it might be? I mean, I could pick a top 100, but
I think I'm.
This one right here. So this is my friends Wayne and Sean, and Wayne had something called an anoxic brain injury a few years ago. He was running a marathon, and his heart just stopped, and he didn't have oxygen to his brain for 20 minutes. And a nurse practitioner happened to be running behind him and gave him CPR for 20 minutes until emergency services made it to him. And so he obviously has lost a lot of his ability to speak and move, but Wayne can communicate so much without saying anything. To be in a room with Wayne is to be blessed. Like, this man is peace embodied. And then this is Sean, who is one of the most funny, cannot stop talking, fills every silence because he's Sean and he's funny and he doesn't know how to not talk. And so they kind of hit it off. And so, no. Sean just was so drawn to Wayne. He was in no way assigned to Wayne, but he just found Wayne and they just became friends right off. This is like the day they met, or the day after they met at retreat in 2023. And here they are praying for one another. And Sean, if you can see the photo up close, he is just like weeping, and so is Wayne. And to see this exchange, which actually didn't involve a lot of words, between two men who his disabilities are on the outside, but Sean has so much going on in his life and family that you can't see on the outside. And that exchange of being known and seen within suffering and not being alone, that is what Hope Heals is right here. I look at this photo way more than I should. It means so much. Tell me about a photo that like you feel really proud of.
I think, can I show you two? I may show you more than two. Well, I'll start here, because this is Ashley and KG. But so Ash was paired with KG. This was Ashley's, KG was Ashley's companion. And KG and her mom, Debbie, came together, and it was like an instant bond. I mean, similar to like what you're talking about here. And I mean, they're like family now, you know? Yeah. And so I think that just points to that co-laboring.
They've become this dynamic duo. I mean, they just like belong together.
And we have, Ash got a puzzle made of this photo for KG, so I believe she puts it together every day. Every day? So that's what I tell myself.
Always in the same order? No, that is confirmed by KG.
Yeah. But I think I took this year.
Oh, I love that photo.
This is one that I feel really, really drawn to. I think if you've never experienced a Hope Heals talent show, like, this place where we are all celebrated, and if you have any talent, like, we want to see it. And it's hard to be at one of those and not just feel like there's like you're both laughing and you have tears running down your face and you're just so happy. But I don't know, something about this photo, just I'm gonna print that big.
The fact that you are seeing what she's seeing these people standing, have their phone flashlights out. But there's something so brave about her too. Like, there's vulnerability in the way she's standing and the way her shoulders are positioned. She looks both small but big and brave at the same time. It's like hard to explain. And I just think, oh, like, I know how she's feeling when I look at this. And I think she feels supported and cheered for on a stage that could be scary and intimidating, but instead she can be proud and safe.
I need to blow that up big.
You do.
Like that,
we need that in our office. Yeah, I was gonna say.
I mean,
I'll take one.
There's so many that kind of stand out to me, but little Zoe, like, it's always, whatever we're doing, worship is always going to be on stage and worshiping.
Yeah, we credit her as a worship leader now. We have Zoe is just turned 13. She has Down syndrome, and she, without hesitation, gets on stage beside some big name worship leaders, and that's exactly where she should be. It's her place.
Your vision, they're swept up in it in such a beautiful way. I mean, you think about like people like Ellie Holcomb, who came this year and gave her own concert. She told Ashley, she was like, "This has been the best week of my life," and she'd been there one day. You know, you have Sandra. So I mean, I think it's just it's remarkable, the people who have been brought in. But then again, it's also just amazing to see Catherine. It feels like their role is just to be around and to be with people. But just to watch her in relationship with the people, it feels really, really special to observe.
Yeah, like you said about when she went on these speaking tours, she's doing the same thing at camp as she's doing there. Like, for years she was the main speaker at camp, and then she realized, like, I don't really care to do that as much as I care to be available to look people in the eyes and hold their hands and cry with them. And that was a big shift.
Yeah, you can kind of tell she's in her element in those moments. So who do we have here?
Okay, so this is a photo from one of the camp talent shows, and we have a camper named Adriano, who is a teenager who is the most charismatic person I've ever met in my entire life. Like, his confidence is just aspirational.
I want to take his workshop.
Oh my God, I want to take his online course.
I would like memorize it.
He's just the best. Adriano, he has Down syndrome, and he loves to perform in the talent show with his little brother, Malachi. And so 2 years ago, Adriano, after he performed, he was just so pumped up and was feeling it so much that just like, he had this overflow of joy, and he just jumped into Tutta's arms. Tutta is the current director of camp. She was emceeing the talent show, and he almost like didn't know what to do, so he just leapt into Tutta's arms. And Tutta still says this is the best moment of her life. So 1 year later, Adriano performs at the talent show again, and at the end of his performance, there's this rousing standing ovation. And this time, I mean, his comedic timing is unparalleled.
It really was so
He waits for the room to get quiet, and then he gets down on one knee and proposes to Tutta this year. Like, we didn't think he could top what he had done the year before. And I mean, her face says it all. We talk about this on a weekly basis still. He's amazing.
So good. Okay, so like camp as like we've said, you go to camp, you experience it. It's hard to put into words. And it's such an embodiment of everything y'all believe. And you guys decided that you want to start a coffee shop at Mend, which I'll try and pull some Mend photos out. What was the starting of Mend like this desire to like make it camp 24/7, 365?
Yes, Camp 365 is kind of what the project became known as. As we built our camp community over the first few years, and got to know, especially these older teenagers and young adults with disabilities whose parents were aging, we started to hear from them, I'm aging out of the school system. There's not a place for me as an adult once I'm kind of out of the school system. My parents are aging. I don't have a lot of friends or connections out in the world. I don't really know what to do other than sit at home all day. And so we kind of started thinking, what can we do to alleviate that? Yeah. And so MEND emerged as this idea, MEND, M-E-N-D. And so there's several really special things about MEND. One of the very special things is that we have an interability staff, meaning there are roles at MEND that someone of absolutely any ability could do, cognitively or physically. We have a whole team called the hospitality team of people who are just there to welcome. And then kind of the more traditional bar staff and kitchen staff. And then MEND is universally designed, meaning it doesn't just meet ADA compliance for wheelchairs and that kind of thing. It actually...
I printed off which to me is like...
goes above and beyond.
Such a remarkable, talk about this detail, because this is a big deal.
So this is a changing table in one of our bathrooms, and all bathrooms have to have at least an infant-sized changing table, but some people who are not infants require the use of a changing table. And so in honor of one of our campers who has now passed away, who was a teenager who did not have a lot of mobility and had to use an adult changing table, we installed one at MEND, and it's really amazing. It's like motorized, so it's very helpful to the person doing the changing and the toileting. So that's at MEND, and so that even like details like that, we have people come in and just weep because they say, I've never seen this out in public before, much less in a really elevated, beautiful coffee shop.
Yeah.
Our like countertop has like a niche in it for wheelchairs to pull up easily. All of our tables are adjustable height, so no matter if your wheelchair is lower or higher than a standard chair, it can be adjusted for you, things like that. It's just every little detail's been thought of. We have some photos here of some of our staff members. We have a whole retail section.
Yeah, I was gonna say, even just your retail is wild. Like, it's, very, very thoughtfully curated in terms of who you're carrying and the products that you offer.
We say like ethically sourced. That's a big buzz phrase right now, but in our marketplace, ethically sourced is only the beginning, so that's the baseline, but everything we sell is actually part of redemptive ventures, meaning like they're actually restoring communities and populations that are involved in the making of the goods, not just paying a fair and ethical wage. So we're really proud of that marketplace.
It's incredible.
And this is my sister. Kind of Hope Heals is a family biz, but she was growing a human and giving birth to MEND as the lead project manager on it. So I love that portrait of her is here.
It's funny. Like, I don't know what I should have expected when y'all were saying you were doing a coffee shop, but like when I walked in, I was like, oh, like, of course it's this. Of course it's this. Of course it's literally the nicest coffee shop like I've ever walked into. I think this this room here, I'm just like, it's so beautiful.
The mural room, and even like this, it's like disguised as this gorgeous coffee shop room, but the acoustics in here are really specifically designed.
More of a sensory
room, so this is like a sound dampening room, and then we have this curtain, this velvet curtain that comes across. It's super sound dampening, and so are the booths, and then the ceiling's lower. So even that was like, if someone is overwhelmed from a sensory point of view, that room's for them. So we're very proud. We just believe like our community deserves the best, and so we want to give them a place where they feel prepared for and invited in, and not just accommodated for, but like enthusiastically prepared for.
It's amazing. Around the time of the launch of MEND in the spring, literally the night before, you co-authored a book with Miss Catherine. I know this was a labor of love for you for a long time. Treasures in the Dark. So this was your launch party that, like I said, we came in the night before and photographed the launch party. Did a little photo booth.
That was so great.
But
it was a really special night.
Tell us about Treasures in the Dark and why that's an important work for you.
Treasures in the Dark is Catherine's third book, and it is the first book that I got to collaborate with her on. She's written a memoir, and then kind of that didactic lessons learned. And Treasures is her first, we call them reflections. You might use the term devotionals. So it's like 90 very short essays that are easy to read, very specifically designed in an arc of, we say, hurting, healing, and hoping. So this is for people who are like, some fresh grief has fallen upon them, and when there's not really words that they can muster up or that their friends can speak over them, we wrote this book for just such a reason. And I was 16 when Catherine had her stroke. I was a teenager. I was 8 when I met Catherine. So she really is like, even though she's my sister-in-law, I don't really remember a time when she was not in our family. Well, my sister, yeah, much more a sister to me than a sister-in-law. And so to be able to help her write about a lot of these things that I got to be a part of as well as they were happening over the last few years was incredibly meaningful. So this was the night we launched the book, and so we had this beautiful party that Bryan, you came and shot, and Catherine and I got to read, some excerpts from the book, which was just amazing. And what's so fun is having you with us at these like kind of milestone life events is like, to have a friend capturing it just makes it all feel so natural and normal versus like we're being photographed. It's just like our friend Bryan is there with us. And there's my whole family, all my siblings. So you shot.
I love this photo. I'm really proud of this. I think this is the only time I've photographed all 8 of you.
I think so too.
Yeah. I think it's probably been the only time I've been in the same room with all 8 of y'all, which is really, really cool. So.
My dad turned 70 next week, and so I was tasked with asking you to do a family photo shoot for his 70th birthday. So you're about to get a lot more than 8 of us in a room together. We'll talk about that off camera, but.
Add J. Wolf Sr. to this, and this is just about to go off the chain.
You'll have to take photos with his iPhone. That was the only thing.
I can't even bring my camera. It's just like gonna go straight to his Instagram feed.
Portrait mode on his iPhone 12.
He's easily my favorite follow on Instagram. Yeah. I think I send you screenshots of my favorite posts.
That was a really special night.
Well, I mean, I was glad I was able to capture this, but to me, I don't even know how many copies of Treasures in the Dark Ashley Johnson has purchased. I know she's not your biggest because I know you have like big donors that buy people like 25,000. She may be behind that.
I believe it. There's no one like Ash.
Hey, I need you to have this book. She just like keeps a stack at the house and she's writing in it and sending it off. So, well, cool. It's been fun.
What are we gonna do next?
It's your birthday. Dude, we're gonna have to have a whole show for
we can do part 2.
It's gonna be like we're gonna need 2 tables of photos of Jay.
Photographed a lot for us.
Yeah, exactly. No, grateful for y'all, and you guys are make this profession like one of the most like rich professions possible. So like really overwhelming just to like even I've never seen all this like laid out like, but it's good to do, and it's good to see it all, and good to be like, all right, this is the last 4 years. What's the next 4 years gonna look like?
I know, right?
That's exciting.
You'll be with us.
I'm here for it. So, and scene. Is that good?